Welcome in, everybody. This is Papa Hotep, and this is the Soul Depot. I'm breaking my programming here by doing this video about Supergirl, but I need subscribers, I need eyes on the channel, so I'm going to do what's popular right now. Hopefully I can bring people in to this video and other people can come in and see the videos that I got about hell and to see the videos that I have about the video I have about aliens and stuff like that. And it's all about saving souls, guys. That's my main objective. As a fan of Superman and DC Comics, I've never really been interested in the Supergirl saga. But however, I heard about the Tom King novel Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, and I did some research on it. I heard about it. I heard it was a very compelling story. And then when I found out that this was going to be a movie in the newly launched DC universe, I was excited about it. As a fan of Superman, I'm not really, like I said, I'm not really a fan of Supergirl. I am a fan of Lobo, and I was excited to hear that they were going to put Lobo in the movie. And let's just be honest, you know, the movie flopped. And I'm going to tell you guys why it flopped, because I did my research and I read the comic. The reviews of the movie and the reviews and the research that I did on the comic, it was a no-brainer. I don't understand why they didn't adapt. You know, I understand when you are adapting something like a comic book to a movie. I understand there's certain parameters like special effects, like certain things you can get off in the comic book, but you can't get it off on screen. I understand budgeting. I understand, you know, you can draw stuff easier than you can create prosthetics and put it on human beings and this, that, and the third. I understand that. But they could have just used what they had in the universe. You know, if James Gunn told Anna Nogueira, hey, put Lobo in the movie. Oh, this is real simple. She could have put Lobo in the movie and made him this crazy guy as he is in comic books. He's a crazy wild guy, bounty hunter. She could have put him as somebody who was also pursuing Crim of Yellow Hills, the main antagonist in this film. But no, go after some other character that's not even, I don't even think is mentioned in the comic book and mentioned in the graphic novel. And so instead of having a bake-off and having two different cuts of the film, DC Studios could have just made this whole thing like a big wraparound story. They could have basically still had the plot from Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, the graphic novel, where Ruthie is out for revenge and she wants Crim of Yellow Hills head on a spike. Could have still had Supergirl being drunk at the beginning of the comic book, but then they could have cut that act out and they could have put her in the suit, because she was in her Supergirl suit throughout the whole comic book. Just only at the beginning of the comic did she have the trench coat on. Okay, and then after that they could have used they could have changed the colors. They could have added a better colorist, you know, like the look of Thor Love and Thunder. It should have had the look of Thor Love and Thunder. It should have had the bright characteristics, the bright colors. You could have still had some of the shading on some of the planets that they were at, but no, they just, you know, and also something else that they did. They made Crim of Yellow Hills. They made him attack Supergirl just out of nowhere. Basically, they made him just be like, oh yeah, you know, I want to steal your ship. But basically, in the comic book, it wasn't even set up like that. Crim was just, you know, going and robbing and killing all over the planet. And he just so happened to came across Ruthie and Supergirl, because the guy that stole the sword from Ruthie went back and told him, hey, you got a bounty on your head. She's hiring people to try to kill you. And that's how he come across Supergirl's ship. It was the only ship there. And, and I feel like, because in the comic books, it does talk about Crim being a derelict. And, the whole human trafficking story. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess it could have worked, maybe, but it wasn't the story of Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. It was basically just like Crim was a derelict that liked to kill people, and he got in good with the brigands, and this is what they did. They like to go around killing people, and it was like a fetish for them. And I mean, I don't know how that would have equated to a movie. I don't know how you make that work, especially in the PG-13 movie. But yeah, I guess they could have still had the story, but at the end of the comic book, Supergirl does not kill Crim. And in the actual novel, it's like it has two different endings. Basically, Ruthie told everybody, yeah, Supergirl killed Crim, but she really didn't. She banished him to the Phantom Zone. Now I understand the Phantom Zone. This is new stuff. This hasn't been introduced in the canon yet, and especially not in the DCU. But you know what has been introduced in the DCU, and that is canon? Salvation from Peacemaker. So personally, as a dad, as a Christian dad who, I don't care about the looks of Supergirl, but I kind of, before I wrap this thing up, let's just be honest. The Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, the young lady that's drawn up in that novel looks more closer to Sydney Sweeney than to Millie Alcock. But I don't, I'm not judging another woman's looks, but I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna have a superhero, David Cornsweet, he seems to be somebody that could be a Calvin Klein model, right? A model dude, somebody that I could see David Cornsweet on the cover of GQ, right? I mean, I'm not saying I couldn't see Millie Alcock on the cover of GQ, but I'm saying, hypothetically speaking, the character looks more closer to Sydney Sweeney than Millie Alcock in the novel. And I just felt like the casting was bad. But anyway, I'm not gonna, we're all God's children. I'm not gonna hate. But, just to cut a long story short, Lobo should have been interfering with Supergirl. There should have been some friction between Lobo and Supergirl. And then at the, that could have been another plot point. And then at the end, instead of letting Supergirl kill Crim, Ruthie should have been in the chance to kill Crim. And then here comes Lobo and Supergirl, and then they make a deal. Supergirl says, "Okay, listen, Ruthie, we got Crim. Lobo has a bounty on his head as well. Let's just do one thing better. My cousin Clark knows about this place called Salvation." And then they could have just banished. The movie could have ended with Ruthie, Superman, and Supergirl and Krypto, laughing and giggling in Clark's apartment, looking at Peacemaker and Crim of Yellow Hills fighting dinosaurs on Salvation. And that's where it should have ended. And instead of Supergirl killing Crim, because they don't kill. Supergirl does not kill. Superman does not kill. They are good. They are the good people. They have all these superpowers and this and that, but they use them for the good will. It's almost like an analogy to how God does us. He gives us a chance. God has the power. He could just kill us at any given moment, but he gives us grace and mercy. This is why he sent us his only begotten son, Jesus Christ, to die for our sins. You understand? It's kind of like the same allegory in a way, right? So, I'm sorry I didn't want to get too preachy on you guys there, but yeah, and the whole crap about the 3 days, that's a plot device that a lot of screenwriters use. Just so you know, I'll give you a little history on Papa Hotep. Before I gave my life to God and started back living right. I've been out here. I've written some screenplays. I say probably I've had about 6 under my belt. Three of them could have been feature-length movies. I never, I just don't want to get down that road. I don't want to start talking about that, but I'll just tell you, as a screenwriter, somebody that knows how to write screenplays, I just feel like Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, the film, is just, the source material was so much greater that they could have took it and they could have made a wonderful movie. And they could have just, all this music and all these needle drops. Sometimes you don't need that in a movie, don't get me wrong, it is good when you polish it up and you have rights to this music, but I think if they would have cut back some of those songs and added more budget towards, like, for instance, at the beginning of the comic book, it's almost like Game of Thrones. Really, it's literally like Ruthie is a little girl in the village in Game of Thrones. They could have literally used a lot of House of Dragon to shoot the beginning of the movie, because it takes place in like that era, like that part of outer space is like some sort of medieval culture, and I feel like they could have used like the House of Dragon set, like some of it, and they could have just had Supergirl. Like, could you imagine how dope that would have looked if it was like Supergirl walking around in like Game of Thrones? Like, it would have been so amazing. But it's like a planet far, far away, and like they could have just used the Game of Thrones set and made the colors lighter, just like the comic book. And it's just a lot of stuff that they could have done. And I'm not killing it because Millie Alcock made disparaging comments toward Christian dads and towards Christianity. I could care less about that. I wanted to take my kids to see a good movie. Every now and then, it's good to, you're not supposed to be of the world, but every now and then it's good to just like kind of give your soul a break and just sometimes just enjoy stuff that's like kind of like outside the box a little bit. I'm not saying I'm turning my back on God by watching a comic book movie, but every now and then it's good just to enjoy certain things. You know what I mean? And I just felt like I wanted to take my kids to see a good superhero film, yet we get woke slop. We get this whole girls are better than boys and this whole, sexism type stuff in film, and we don't need that. And that's it. Could you please like, comment, and subscribe? Please get people to my channel. I've had like I said, I had a programming change. I'm not into political commentary no more. I'm basically into trying to save people and trying to help people get their soul right. And this is a journey that we are all going to go on together. So God bless you all, and good night.